All right, the Pittsburgh Steelers are maybe dead here as they lose a really important game. Felt like the loser of this game was out of it, and while it's not officially over, man, it feels over if you're a Steelers fan right now. Let's start off with this play. They got off to that hot start, and it wasn't, again, there was that block punt. That was obviously a big, part of it. Gave them 7 points. This is how they got the other 6, though, when they went up 13-0. A play like this. You see the routes on the screen, but it's really going to be Pickens' route. And again, this offense a lot of times does run through Pickens. When it works, it's through him. When it doesn't work, it's, because they can't get him the ball. Not always, but that's, he's obviously a big part of this team. Going to try to get him in a gap in coverage here. Trubisky's going to take the snap. He is going to look in that direction on the 3rd down and 6. He fires in that direction, and, really well-timed ball. You see how Pickens is open. Trubisky makes the throw. So, again, Colts play a lot of zone coverage. There were moments of the Steelers being able to kind of, run some zone busters to get guys open like that. That definitely happened. That got them ahead. Like, even the touchdown over here I liked, because, listen, the block punt got them here, but it didn't get them in the end zone. They still had to do that themselves. This is a fun play, just simple pick play, but I really like these plays. I think they work really well. I think teams should try this more frequently. Watch as when Trubisky takes the snap, you see that the Indianapolis Colts defender, he's completely discombobulated here. His, head is turned towards the top of the screen. This is a great situation for Pittsburgh. As you see, Trubisky makes the throw. Again, get him to run the offense, able to make plays like this. Good play by Deontay Johnson. Good play by everyone to get the touchdown. And this is what you wanted to see more of. But like I said, things kind of went off the rails a little bit. They went from, up 13 to, giving up a ton of unanswered points to the Colts in this one. So that was obviously a big deal. What happened? Did the offense cool down? Well, it was in part something like this, where it's going to be, it's an interesting play. So it's 1st and 16, but you're at midfield. So this is not a desperation time at all. And again, they're still up 6 points at this point. The Colts did score, but you're still in a good spot here. You have Pickens running down the field, and let's see what happens. So, Trubisky's going to take the snap, and, typically the deep route, a lot of times it's only designed to just push defenders further deep, but right here, Trubisky looks over and says, one-on-one matchup down the field to Pickens. Let's take a chance here. And to be honest, I don't hate the logic. On 1st down, I don't love it. If this was a 3rd down, I would just straight up say it's a great decision. But here, I don't think it's a terrible decision. Again, this isn't a great offense. So if you can get a chunk play here, then you kind of have to go for it, I think. But, again, what has to happen is Pickens has to win here. Instead, as you see, Pickens does not win on this play. It is Nick Cross who kind of takes it from him, really, and they're not able to get a big chunk play on that one. Instead, it's an interception, and you had good field position. Even if it was incomplete, would have been 2nd and 16 at midfield. You would have had a chance to, at the very least, get in field goal range. Could have gotten in field goal range without even getting the 1st down, potentially. Instead, turns the ball over. Well, that's obviously not great. And then just some plays like this, where it's going to be zone coverage, simple stuff, right? This is not the most difficult of things. And in fact, this ended up being a pretty big deal where, they didn't convert here. The Colts ended up driving down the field with the minute they had and scoring a touchdown, which, okay, that's not the offense's fault. But the fact that they got the opportunity at all is the offense's fault. 3rd down and 3, you have Pat Freiermuth running just a route to get open over the middle. Simple stuff. Get underneath the zone coverage. Again, Colts love to play their zone coverage, so this is what the Steelers are trying to do. As you see, Trubisky's going to look over here. Pat Freiermuth is just wide open on this play. So, okay, great. Let's, get the 1st down. Worst case scenario, the ball will, the half will end with the ball in Pittsburgh's hands, but you're hoping more than that. You're hoping you can get some points on the board here. But here's the issue. I want to explain the issue before I show it. You see Pat Freiermuth where he is. Trubisky's going to assume he's going to stay there. But watch Freiermuth move over the middle a little bit more. Trubisky throws it behind him. That's just a communication thing. Whose fault is that? It's kind of impossible to know if you're not in the huddle. But at the end of the day, not getting on the same page that can't happen. It just can't. There were also just too many plays like this where what's going to happen on this one is it's a zone coverage play. Again, this is what the Colts do, right? They're playing zone. And I showed some plays of running zone busters. So you might think, well, why weren't they just getting guys open all day? Well, it's not that simple. Some of these routes can get open against zone, However, when Trubisky takes a snap here, you get to this point and no one's open. So there was definitely instances of good coverage from Indianapolis. Sometimes it's as simple as that, right? We like to talk about X's and O's and quarterbacks making mistakes and miscommunications and all this stuff. Sometimes it's just guys are covered. Sometimes it's just the defense is playing well. Because of that, pressure eventually gets to Trubisky, and he gets sacked. That was on a third down, so they weren't able to convert. And again, I mean, if you can't convert on these 3rd and 6s, that's going to make it really hard to get a drive going. Well, yes, an ideal drive, you never see a 3rd down. That's usually not going to happen. Usually to get a long drive, you're going to have to convert a 3rd down or 2. But when you're not getting guys open consistently, it's hard to do that. So that's also a factor here. And also going over here, listen, this isn't going to be a complete blaming the coaching situation. It's not. I'm not going to sit here and say the coaching was the entire reason they lost. And I do think that, I've kind of felt for a while, it tends to be the way where if a team is bad offensively, people, instead of blaming the players, blame the coach. It just is what it is. Easier to blame one guy than it is to blame, 11, right? So makes sense. At the same time, though, there was blame to go for the coaching here. This one was just, I don't know what we were doing here. 2nd down and 21. And, Colts do have 2 safeties very far deep. They do. So, in theory, if this is the 1st and 10, this is actually a great front to run the ball into. But the reason why the Colts are doing this is because they're fine with a running play. They would gladly take that. Also, on this one, it completely doesn't work. I mean, they only gain a yard, so that made things worse. But realistically, even if, that play worked as you wanted, you're still probably gaining, 7 to 10 yards at most. You're still looking at a 3rd and very long. And that would have been best case scenario. If it's me, I would rather be pushing the ball down the field, try to get, you get 2 chances to get the explosive play. Now, granted, didn't actually matter on this play because Trubisky actually converted to 3rd and 20, so give them credit for overcoming it, albeit they still weren't able to put points on the board in this drive. But at the same time, it's not putting your players in position to succeed. Some of these plays where players were in position to succeed and didn't, but then sometimes they weren't even put in position to succeed, and and weirdly, and this time they did, but on the next play. But of course, a lot of times they did not as well. With how many teams are currently fighting for those wild card seeds in the AFC, 10-7 might not be enough, and that's the best they can do at this point. And it went out with a tough offensive showing for the Steelers. They were up 13-0, and then just gave up a million points. Weren't able to do anything really from that point on. So let's talk about what went wrong for Trubisky's Steelers. So yeah, that's what I think about all this. Just a tough loss for the Steelers. Weird to think about the Steelers, down this low. It's been a while. So yeah, those are my thoughts about Pittsburgh. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.